I got a hook in that one. Oh my golly. Did you see him come out of the water? He ate it and ran straight at me. Ryan Salzman, nice swim bait, but I gotta be careful because he's like literally sandpapering my line here. Come on, come on, come on. Gotcha. Look how he ate that swim bait. Salzman, you're welcome. That is awesome. 7-pounder. Ah. What's going on, guys, and welcome to mikeybalzz Fishing. How's fishing? Pretty good? A little selfless plug. I want to see what you guys think. We got a new balls hat. My buddy at Bass Attitude over at Chickamauga. Check this out. It's got like palm trees and balls. I mean, how can you go wrong? But let's get down to the brass tacks. So I put up a video, I think a few weeks ago, a beginner's guide to swim bait fishing, and I got tagged a little bit, and you know, it was for fair reason. A lot of guys said it wasn't really a beginner's video. So what I wanted to do is kind of put the rewind on, because right now it is hot out. I don't care if you're up north in Wisconsin, I don't care if you're down south in Florida, Alabama, wherever you are, it is hot. And usually what happens this time of year, summer gets tough when it comes to bass fishing, but you usually either have bass super shallow or super deep. Like it's one or the other. There's always exceptions, no doubt about it, but for the most part, they're either chasing brim way up shallow, or they're way offshore on schools of shad, schools of bait, on offshore structure, all set up. And one of the great ways to target them, whether they're in the grass or they're on structure, is with a swim bait. And I want to go through, because I got a couple swim baits that I use, and they're not just like brand swim baits. I'm going to show you a couple different brands, but they're styles of swim baits, and those different styles of swim baits fit into different sort of techniques, fishing techniques and approaches that you can take to these kind of mid to late summer bass. And they target those areas where they're set up, super shallow and super deep. So I'm going to show you some ways to rig them, how to set them up, what rods that I use, or what style actions rods that I use, as well as kind of like how to fish them, what they look like, and a couple good colors. So come along with me. Let me know what you think of the hat. Drop it down in the comments box. I think they're super cool. They got like the palm trees. It's like floral life, bro. But make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Let's go talk some swim baits. So we're gonna start shallow and then we're gonna go deep. And as you can see, I'm nestled up and shooting this video in a bunch of grass, and it is hot. So if I start like profusely sweating, like just forgive me, because it's a little warm to shoot these videos. But one thing that you can do in the grass, everybody fishes a frog this time of year. Love a frog. You guys saw the video with JT. Frog fishing is a blast. But I think sometimes in Florida, we don't forget, but like outside of Florida, guys forget that there's a lot of baits that you can buzz over the top of grass or fish just above the grass and like take that grass or buzz that grass and get some insane kersplooshes. Like swimmy shimmers, dude. Like that's what I'm gonna call them for the video. That's what I'll call this video, swimmy shimmers. They bubble. You can actually fish them like you would fish like a horny toad, a zoom horny toad, or something along those lines. Your classic kind of like toad baits that you buzz on the top. And I got that right here. Let me throw a quick caveat on this. A lot of guys like to put a small either belly weight, I'll show it to you right here, a small belly weight on the hook. They use a screw lock hook and a belly weight, or they put like a little, like a 32nd or a 16th ounce, or even Gambler has like what's called a hollow point. It's like a plastic cone that goes there and screws into the bait. For the most part, I don't use any kind of weight when I'm doing this. What I try to do is fish a little bit slower, and that does the same thing. If you have super thick grass and you have to keep that bait either kind of like pushing, like for instance, like the cheesy goo stuff that you get on Gunnersville, if you need to like push down on that, you might want to put a little weight on it. If you have matted milfoil, if you have any kind of goo or anything, you might need to push down on it. But for the most part, I like to rig this style of swim bait weightless, and we're gonna call these a full body swim bait. This is an easy swimmer. This is Lunker Candy. It's actually a cool color if you got shad or brim. It's kind of natural, got some green in it, got some fleck, and then it's got kind of a smoky sort of pearl silverish kind of belly to it. But any kind of full-bodied swim bait will work for this technique. And what you do is I throw it on 40 to 65 pound braid. Usually 50 is what I'm going to throw it on. I get the longest cast out of that, and it's enough to actually like pull the fish out of pretty much any junk. If you break 50 on a casting application, not a flipping application, you're the man. Like go ahead, give yourself like 4 out of 5 stars, because you're the man. But 50 pound will give you long casts and it'll get the fish out. So this is a 5/0 owner wide gap plus hook, and all you're gonna do is you're gonna Texas rig it. I like the owner wide gap because it's a stouter hook. You can see like the gauge on it's a little thicker. You can use any hook you want. Like I said, some guys will use like a screw lock hook. I like a classic offset shank hook with a wide gap, and I just rig it literally just weedless, dude, just like that. And what this bait does is it goes do 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 do, just like a frog, like over the grass. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna slang it out. I would target, like just like when you're frog fishing, like floating frog fishing, target holes. So cast past the hole, reel it over the hole kind of nice and slow, maybe stop it a couple times before you get there. Or you can fish, you see we got some pads right here, you fish like the spaces in the pads, and the thing is, like literally you can throw it over a field of pads. You're gonna have to kind of hold your rod tip at like a 45. I have it on this is a 7.3 heavy XD3 Pro. I like a little bit shorter rod, and here's the reason for that. A lot of guys will throw it on like a 7.6 flipping stick, heavy action, totally cool. You get super long casts. The only thing that you lose with that a little bit is accuracy, and I'm making long casts sometimes, but for the most part, I'm trying to hit little turns. Like, you know, I'm trying to hit like right in that little crevice back there where the grass sticks up, but there's a little like alleyway lane of lily pads back there. So it's the same thing with like hydrilla, milfoil, that you got a hole, you got like a little turn, you have a vegetation juncture. I want to make a little more accurate cast. You can also skip this under docks too and buzz it out just like you would like a toad or even like a swim jig when you're like burning swim jigs, skipping jigs under docks. But that shorter rod allows you just a little more just flexibility with accuracy, and that to me at least is really important. Plus, this is the same rod I use for my floating frog, so I'm super comfortable with it. I try to, when I'm grass fishing, not have a million rods. I got a couple flipping rods, a couple casting rods, and maybe 1 or 2 like fluorocarbon rods for like dragging worms or like, you know, stick baits like aces and stuff like that. But I'm used to this rod, so throwing like a little or an easy swimmer on it like this, a big easy, or cutting that off and putting a floating frog on it. I thought I had one right down there, but I have everything else down there except for a floating frog. But put a floating frog on it, I know what it casts like, I'm already used to it. But buzzing a swim bait, a full body swim bait over the grass, if you haven't done it, try it. And if you really want to have some fun, buzz a Big Easy. That's the one size up from this guy. It's something we do in Florida. Once again, it's almost like the Nichols Ben Parker spoon. Don't be intimidated by the size. Like, little guys will eat it. The trick is, though, the Big Easy works a lot better. One, if you have bigger fish, no doubt about that, bigger forage. The other thing is, too, if you get some chop on the water, you can see out here, we're starting to get a little bit of chop. That's maybe not enough. I guess what I'm talking about is maybe like a 5 to 10, 8 to 12 kind of thing. Like your vegetation's getting some chop and you're looking for more of like a blub 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 tail instead of just a blub 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 blub. Does that make any sense to anybody? Blub 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 versus blub 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 blub. If you fish, you know what I'm talking about. Another thing you can do with full body swim baits is put them on the back of swim jigs and stuff. They work a lot better than hollow bodies and other styles because they actually like grab the keeper. This is an awesome bait. This is the new Mega Bass. I forget what it's called, but it's basically a swim jig with a small brush guard and an underspin on it. But if you're fishing a chatterbait, ta-da! All these things, like a little easy, a little Kitech, something along those lines. Those full body swim baits grip that keeper that's on there a lot better. They don't slide down as much and they don't tear as much, dude. So what I always talk about is efficiency, being fluid in that, and they're gonna make your game with those reactive kind of moving baits a lot more fluid. So just a note, we're not really gonna dip too hard into hard baits right now. I look at most hard baits, not all. I'm gonna show you one hard swim bait to look at for this late summer deal. But for the most part, like your glide style baits, your hard swim baits, you know, I do lean more towards those during the spring and winter. They just seem to be a better option. Oftentimes right now in this time of year, like you see a lot of grass except for way offshore if you're fishing super deep, and those hard baits, they don't always perform. Now I know I'm gonna get tagged because you can throw a glide bait like over a grass flat or something like that and catch some fish because it kind of looks like a spook, you know, darting back and forth, but it's not a super prominent deal right now. But one thing I do want to show you that I've been experimenting with, and you can do this, I'm going to show you one version. This is an inline swim bait. Now this specifically is a Scottsboro tackle version. And what does it mean that it's inline? So if you look really close, it's kind of hard to see. There's a small hole right there, and there's a small hole right there. And basically what this does is you run your line through the bait and you tie it off to this hook, and then your hook goes right, I don't want to hook it too deep, but right there. These are full body style swim baits, and you can do this really if you go, I think Bassmaster has a video on it, a couple guys have videos on it. You can do this with any swim bait, even hollow bodies that you want. It's, I think it's easier just to buy the pre-rigged like through body. This Scottsboro is bad to the bone, so I just do that. But you can do this with a small piece of tubing and just kind of like I think you take a drill and you drill through a little hole, you slide tubing in. If you guys can see through that plastic, that's all that's right there is just a small piece of almost like WD-40 tubing. But you can do this with a Gambler Easy. You can do this with like an Optimum swim bait. You can do this with a hollow body. You can do this with a mag draft. That's all they do. The mag drafts, the Mega Bass, they have the version that's not rigged, and then they have like a line through version like this. But what this is nice for is, yes, it's an open hook, but as we talked about, there's a bunch of grass flats out now, you know, with that grass growing up, and you get in, like, if you have super clear water, shallow is like 3 to 5, 3 to 6, and sometimes that grass will only be like a foot or two off the bottom. And what you can do is, even with this treble, you can throw this thing out and just slow reel it over that grass, and this tail wags just like an Easy would, you know, super straightforward. It's a boot style tail, and it just kind of wags over that stuff. The reason being too, this bait gets quite a bit of lift with the body form being like that, as well as the tail. This actually lifts like over the flat, like it'll actually kind of ride kind of high in the water, maybe 1 to 2 feet, especially if you're reeling it at a consistent retrieve. So it's really easy to kind of keep above the grass and sort of, I don't know what you call it, like floating it over the grass. You're not really going to twitch it or anything, it's just reeling, but it's a great way to mimic shad and other like brim, things like that are kind of cruising around just above the grass or just right at the tip of the grass, and those bass are sitting in that grass. It's tough to like punch for them or flip for them because the grass is like down under the surface, but you can kind of trigger them to come out and slurp the swimmy shimmer. So this is a classic. This doesn't need much explaining. Hollow body swim bait. I got it on my goat head. This is a 3/4 ounce head. I actually, you know, one thing that I do with these is, this is a 7/6. It's kind of weird. It's a medium heavy. So it's like a little stiffer, thicker than your standard medium heavy, but it's not a heavy action rod. It's Halo TI, but I have this set up. This is only a 621 speed spool, or 681, so it's a little bit slower, but I put this on 15-pound test, and now this is, I think, like a 6-inch or a 5.5. I'll throw up to, actually I got one right here. I got some old Bass Tricks before they went out of business. I think there's still some on Tackle Warehouse. And by the way, I'll put links to all this stuff at Tackle Warehouse down in the description box. So if you want to go check out colors or see what I'm talking about directly at Tackle Warehouse with some better pictures, you can go check it out there. But I got this guy on a goat head. This is a 7-inch Bass Tricks, but literally on this setup with 15-pound fluorocarbon, I will throw up to like a 7-8-inch hollow body, and I'll put that on my screw head so it doesn't slide down, that goat head, the locked up shad head. This in particular is a 3/4. That's pretty much what I have tied on for most of the time, like late summer and on, just because I find that the fish are deeper and I want to be able to move the bait faster as well. So even if they're, I consider deep like 24, 25 to 30 or so, but even if they're shallower than that, say 18, 17, 15, I want to be able to reel that bait pretty quick, not super fast, but I want to use different retrieves. So having that 3/4 ounce head on there really allows me to use a lot of different retrieves. I'll do like a hair jig retrieve, you know, whoop, 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 up, and then sometimes I'll just open the bail and let it slackline down. Yeah, just kind of different stuff to kind of mix it up. But a hollow body offshore is almost my always go-to. Every once in a while, I'll put like a Kitech on there, or I'll put, Gambler makes a Jeezy. It's a 6.5-inch. It's a Mondo bait, dude. When I'm on them, like that thing comes out. And the Hammond's herring, like Tim from Hammond's Fishing over on Lake Lanier came up with this color. It's like a green iridescent with pearl. It is, to me, maybe, oh, I got one on my, there, it's that. It's like green iridescent with some pearl. I got it on another Mega Bass swim jig with the blade. But dude, to me, that color is insane. I wish they actually made it in more. I think they do make it in some of the hollow bodies, but the point being though, for the most part, when I'm doing an offshore structure fishing, I'm gonna go with a hollow body. On that jig head, they're super functional. They get good wag action. I can super slow roll them. This is actually Salzman's bait right here. And what I've found is it's durable enough where it takes a beating and it won't rip super easy like the Bass Tricks did, but the tail is nice and thin and it actually tapers down there. So I don't have to reel it that much if I do want to super slow roll it to maybe say tick some cover or bonk some shell. That tail's still gonna wag and do what I want it to do. Before I show you the last bait, I'm gonna throw you a little sneaky tip with that hollow body. So something that I've kind of gradually figured out, I'm always looking for bass on the sonar. You know, I'm looking for them on my HDS 12, like on the down scan. Like I want to see a white bloop, you know, I want to see dots on my side scan or shadows on my side scan. I want to see them down there. But what I've found too in late summer, especially if you have a lot of brim, or even, I know up north they have, I think it's called like whiting, any kind of like bait fish that gets out there, if you're cruising around, scanning around, and you see this mega cloud of bait, I know it sounds pretty standard, but like, I'm talking not just like, oh, I saw bait, so I threw my bait. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking like, you see just like so thick, you can't almost like see through it with your graph. Like it's just super thick. And maybe on your 2D, you see a couple arches on there. So it's a pattern that I've kind of gotten into lately. I pick up that swim bait. I'm not going to sit on that stuff for very long, but I'll make like 10 casts. I'll kind of fan cast it out and make like 10 casts and just run that swim bait through it. That bait's usually kind of elevated too off the bottom. It's a little more suspended, so it's a perfect opportunity for that swim bait, because as you reel it, it rides up just a hair unless you're super slow rolling it. But I'll fan cast that bait, and what I've found more often than not is there's bass mixed in with it. It's not a mega school. It's not like 4,000 fish where you sit there all day and catch them kind of thing, but there's fish mixed in with those brim, and that oftentimes they're untouched for two reasons. One, guys don't see them on the graph, and two, they move a lot. So it's one of those like live by the seat of your pants bites. Like you idle out of the boat ramp, it drops off to like 15, 18 foot, and like there's a line of friggin' bait just stacked. Make like 5 or 6 casts, give it a try. I don't care if you're up north, down south, wherever. Like if you see it thick, and I'm talking thick, like looks like you can walk on it, there's just arcs all over your 2D, give that a try, because you can stumble on to a couple big bites of just the sort of roaming fish, not the fish that is set up on structure all the time, but like roaming school-oriented fish, and they eat. Like they're mixed in with that bait to do one thing, and that's to chomp. So you put your bait in there and they go, and they eat the swimmy shimmer. Ooh yeah, ooh yeah. Yeah, you know where this is going. I've always been a fan of Mike Bucca, and there's 2 reasons for it. I don't know if you guys are like this, but I'm like this. I support tackle that I like. You know, I like the baits, they work for me, they fit my style of fishing. And I also support people that I like, because good people, like, I don't know, like it's something that like I believe in. You find good people that make good baits, and that's a winning combination. So Mike Bucca is a super good dude, an excellent fisherman and a super good dude, and he makes probably, I mean, now like a lot of guys are making like swim baits like this, but this is one of the first kind of production style, like classy sort of custom swim baits that made it to the market, and that's the Bull Shad. He's got a bunch out now. I mainly stick with the Bull Shad. I haven't played with many others. Definitely tell me some more that I should play with, actually. I'm kind of curious about that. But I believe this is the 9-inch. I got it on a Dobbins 795 Fury. It's my big swim bait rod if I'm gonna throw a glide bait or whatever. Got it with the old Greeny Meanie 200E, 20-pound test, 20-pound fluorocarbon. I will put braid on it if I'm using, like, say, a floating one over the grass or something. I guess that's kind of a deal on Gunnersville that I need to try. But I have this guy. Why do I have this guy? We've talked about it in some of the earlier videos. As we get, you know, there's always that transition, like when it's kind of like, hey, it's almost fall, but it's still summer, you know? So as we move to these later stages of summer and that, the bait gets big, whether it's shad, whether it's brim, everything kind of does their business and, you know, makes sweet love and all that kind of stuff, like back in spring, and all that stuff that comes out now like grows and grows, and now it's hitting its peak size, as well as just eating and growing and eating and growing, and sometime like in mid-fall, like it's as big as it's going to be, and that's kind of where we're at. So I always have this thing, and I got it out of here, which is kind of my like secondary rods. I'll be totally honest. Like, I'm not gonna pick that up as the first bait that I throw, say if I'm fishing a brush pile or if I'm fishing a shell bar. Like, that's stupid because I don't do that. But this guy, this is the Mondo one. The 6-inch I would probably pick up and throw a little more, but I have the Mondo one on because I've been on some big fish. But this guy I can throw out with no weight on the front and let it sink down to say like 24 feet or so, and I can slow roll that thing back. And I'm not gonna get a lot of bites, but it has a nice like S-ing motion. It's not like a glider or anything like that, but I can fish deep structure with it, as well as just fish something gigantic and hard that they've never seen. So that's why I have that joker tied on. It's not a super duper go-to. It's not something I'm gonna pick up all the time, but it's a bait that I love the action of, and I know every time I sling it, like, there's the potential that I could catch a teener. Like, that's kind of my approach. And the other funny part is too, I have got some small fish on it and they'll knock at it too. Like, if you throw it down on something, even if you don't catch one on it, like a 2-pounder will literally headbutt it. They probably won't get hooked, but like, I'll feel them headbutt it and then I'll pick up something else like a Nico rig or something a little more subtle and small and throw it down there and kind of play with them a little bit. But have yourself something big. If you need to downsize, the 6-inch is like the best all-around size ever. I just have the Mondo on because I've been going and catching some bigs, and I would love to catch like a 10-pound plus fish. I have one 10.97 on this thing, and I think I caught some 6s, but I would love to catch my DD on that guy, like a 13 or so. I would lose my damn mind, dude. Lose my damn mind. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Those are kind of the swim baits I'm going to use late summer. As I mentioned, this is not like a real hard bait review. I just threw you that Bull Shad. There's a lot of different ones you can use in that same style of technique. But really, as we get into like late fall, winter, spring of next year, that's when we're going to start talking about it, like more hard baits, because that's when I'm going to focus on them more. I mean, maybe they work by you, but I'm going to kind of give you my experience, and that's all I got. You know, I'm not going to go and lie and run you guys around. I'm just going to tell you what I've experienced and what I know. So we will talk more hard baits down the line, but check yourself out some solid body swim baits like the Easy, like the Kitech. I don't know if the Kitech will buzz over grass, but if you want to buzz grass, pick up an Easy. I'm telling you, you'll love it. If you're going to throw something on the back of a chatterbait or something with all the grass, you're going to rip it and all that, try yourself a full body swim bait. It's a perfect trailer for that, a lot better than, I think, even than like a burner crawl or something like that. I like the streamlined presentation. And if you go way back a bunch of videos, my buddy Jacob Wall from the FLW, what do they call it? The Pro Circuit, bro. Go check him out and give him a follow too. But he actually did a little mod where he cut the tail and it ends up looking like a fluke and it just like waves. It's super cool. But I prefer swim bait style baits on the back of those chatterbaits, as well as my swim jigs too. Like they kick right, like they're easy to fish. It's just a personal preference. But then if you got super deep structure fish, grab yourself a hollow body or any of these fun toys that are up here. You can see where I'm gonna go, what I'm gonna go do after I get done with the video. Grab yourself a hollow body. My buddy Ryan Salzman makes a good one, but there's a bunch of good ones on the market. Sadly, Bass Tricks isn't around anymore, but those jokers do rip up a whole bunch. But I do have a small stash. Maybe I can catch a DD on that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you got any questions or anything to add to it, I always like hearing your feedback and getting your kind of perspectives and experiences, because that's what fishing's about, like just sharing, learning. It's not like you're going to do the exact same thing as somebody, but you might pick some little thing up, modify it for where you're fishing, and apply it and have one of the best days you've ever had on the water. And to me, that's what it's about. So make sure to throw a like and subscribe on this video. I appreciate all your support for the channel. You guys have been awesome. Like, I didn't think this would ever break 50K or have videos reaching like 10-20,000 views, and that's literally thanks to you, because you guys support like real fishing and like people talking about real experiences out on the water, and that's all I'm here to do. So I love sharing that with you. I love making the videos, and because of your support, that's been happening more and more. So thank you guys. But we will check you next time, probably talking tackle, but definitely getting out on the water and doing some fishing. I'll give Bog a pat for you, but tight lines till then.